Hey everyone, I'm Breanna from Boom, and welcome to Boom Chat. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Bones Leopard and Kelly and Nichole Matthews, the magical team that's bringing you Save Yourself. What if magical girls aren't Earth's champions after all? The world's most beloved heroes, Al, Thel, and Jen, better known as the Lovely Trio, first burst onto the scene 5 years ago when they saved Earth from a surprise space monster attack. Since then, everyone, including Gigi, whose brother died as a bystander in the Lovely Trio battle, has idolized them as superheroic pop icons. But when Gigi witnesses the Lovely Trio battling a monster firsthand, she sees something that causes her to question everything she thought she ever knew about her heroes. Bones. This is such a fun concept. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I need to know what made you want to take the magical girl theme and just turn it on its head?
So it was actually kind of part of the character creation of when I was making Mia. I wanted to make a roller derby magical girl themed. And so that's kind of where their creation started, was that I was like, oh, I really want to make a fun, like a dark magical girl who is a little different from the rest. And at the time I was watching Princess Utena, which is another great series. And I was just like, man, it would just be really interesting if maybe Mia wasn't the hero of the story. And so once I started diving into that, I was just like, oh, okay. Or was the villain of the story. I wanted to kind of go into that part of it where it's like, oh, like it would be very interesting to take that trope and kind of be like, oh, well, you expect the magical girls to be the heroes. And then like, but what if they aren't? Because one, magical girls are usually just like so OP, so just like overpowered. So like they have all these like larger than life powers. And it's just like, of course, if you saw them, you'd be like, yeah, they're here to save us. And then I was just like, but how scary would it be if they weren't? So that's kind of where it all started.
That's such a great concept and such a great idea. I'm so excited to see how this goes. My goodness. All right, Kelly and Nichole. So we chatted a little bit earlier. There seems to be some speculation about whether or not the two of you are twins. It looks to me like you are. I see two of you. Um, so since there are two of you, I want to know how long have the two of you been working together as a team? And what's your artistic process like? Does one of you just do the inks and somebody else does the color? Like what's your system like?
We have been working together pretty much our entire lives. Like ever since in like grade school, where we realized you could actually make a living drawing comics, we're like, we need to do this when we grow up. We're gonna start now. So we've always been working together. In terms of how we divide our work, Kelly does most of the thumbnailing. She'll do thumbnails and inks and pencils. I'll go in and I'll flat and then I'll color, but we also can help each other. So if she's having trouble, like saying, like outlining a page, or if I'm having trouble getting my flats done in time, then we can kind of switch off and help the other with that. Mhm. We're trying to be a little bit more collaborative lately because we've had some projects where some stuff takes a little bit longer than we think. So the other ones like been stepping up more in aiding stuff. Like I've been having to flat a lot, and Nikki's also been doing very good about inking some of the pencils and doing some backgrounds for me, which has been very helpful.
I love that. You have a built-in team member. This is so cool. Oh my gosh. So yes, everyone, they are in fact twins. They are not three cats in a trench coat, as you were led to believe. There they are. You can see them both, and they're amazing artists. Okay, I'm going to jump back over to Bones. So the protagonist Gigi is still reeling from a tragedy that happened in her past that I'm sure we're going to learn more about as the story progresses. But how, like, is there any inkling that you can give us about how this tragedy might influence her moving forward in this adventure that she's about to take part in?
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away so that people read it. But I will say that that is a big part of the story with Gigi, because as somebody who has experienced like loss of someone who's close to you, it's kind of like this weird thing of like, I wanted to really give the impression where it's like I think the hardest part for me was like the world kind of kept moving without like giving me time that I needed, kind of thing. And I was just like, wait a second, how dare you keep like rotating and everyone keep living their life while I'm dealing with this thing on the side. And then I kind of had like, once I went through the whole grieving process, I did kind of have this like, oh wow, okay, now I'm back with everybody again, and it's really and like, you know, you still miss them, but it's like kind of like a getting back out there and like doing your own thing. And so where Gigi is in this point is kind of towards the end of the grieving process of like, oh well, like maybe it's time for me to like kind of go back to the way things were. But the real part of it is that after you lose somebody who is an integral part of your life, is that things won't be the way that things were before. And in this story, it just so happens that it's like, hey, I'm going to go back to the way things were. Oh, it's just going to never be the same because of everything that's happening. And I think that's kind of what I wanted to do with the whole grieving process of at least that aspect of it.
I'm so interested to see how this goes, because I know that like when people are grieving, it's always there and it doesn't get smaller. We just sort of expand around it, so it starts to affect us less. And so I'm really glad that you have that element in the story, and I really hope readers can see that and relate to it. And I think that's a beautiful way to put it, Bones. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's wonderful.
I hope so too. I hope that everybody can get that from the story.
I think they will. I think that's evident. Okay, I don't have a good transition for this, so I'm just going to jump into the next question. Kelly and Nichole, so we've got this magical girl trio that you've designed. Can you tell me about how you decided what the characters were going to look like and what went into their color palette? Was there any research that you did to decide the aesthetic for the lovely trio?
Well, we knew from the beginning, from Bones' concept art, that Mia would be generally pink and that Gigi was going to be generally purple. So we decided to take that and extrapolate on that. And based on some like classic Magical Girl series, like Sailor Moon, you usually have that really classic color palette where everyone's their own color. Well, you have a pink one, you have a yellow one, you have a green one, you have a blue one. And we also knew from her I guess like plot notes that she'd have sisters. So it's like, all right, well, we'll make one blue, we'll make one yellow, we'll make one green. And then we also had I think somewhere on Mia's original character design, she had a heart. So we also like, well, you could do, if there's 4 sisters, you could do the suits. You could have one of a heart motif, one of a diamond. So we went from there and be like, okay, well, which one feels more like blue? Which one feels more like yellow? Knowing that pink was already going to be the heart. But that for the actual human character designs, we designed their alternate forms first, and then basically made a human version of that. In my head, when I was designing them, there's like a term called like I think it's pronounced gingenica, where you make a human version of an animal character, like a human version of like a Digimon or something like that. But that was my thought process making them. And then I wanted to make sure that all of their outfits looked like they felt sort of similar, but then also unique of each other. And then Mia's outfit, we actually changed a little bit from the concept art that Bones gave us to also fit in with the trio, but then also
what had happened.
Yeah, but also like some stuff that had happened that would led Mia up to that point.
This is amazing. Thank you so much for letting us in on your process. This is so great. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is not the first time y'all have worked together as a team. So I would like to know, how has working on Save Yourself differed from when y'all worked on Pandora's Legacy? Or is it different? Is it the same? Have you found a rhythm? Tell me everything.
Ooh, I mean, I feel like, yeah, it was a lot different because with Pandora's Legacy, I want to say it was just kind of like at the time we had already been working on that Kickstarter together for Pandora's Book of Monsters. We had already been collaborating a lot, where I felt like a lot of it was kind of already established of where things were going and designs and everything. Whereas with Save Yourself, it was kind of more limited because, Kelly and Nichole's problem of being so talented is that they're constantly getting work. And I was just like, how dare you not have space for me on your schedule? But they did. So it's all fine. But I know on my end, it was just kind of like, oh, here's like the script and getting their notes back and getting it to a good place where they could start working. But I find the most joy of like when they turn in art and I'm just like sitting here being like, oh my gosh, I didn't imagine it this way, but it's so much better. And just like them taking their artistic license and just like, I don't know, they just bring so much to it that I honestly would be happy working with them forever. So and y'all know that that's not a secret.
Kelly and Nichole, what's it been like for you?
I think Pandora in some ways was a little easier because I think the way we were communicating was a little bit more constant and a little more open. I think that was mostly because Whitney was the editor on the project. So we had a Google group where we were all just talking whenever we needed. So I'm not sure how Whitney appreciated that, like us asking her questions at very late at night where she was. But for the most part, it was the process was a little smoother. Like now with Save Yourself, we have to wait for like feedback from like multiple people, but it's been its own interesting thing. It's been a little difficult fitting the work into the other stuff, but it's also been nice doing something so completely different from the other stuff we're doing. And we also always have Bones to talk to and bother whenever we need some clarification. So it hasn't been too hard.
We have their Discord, so they can't escape us from email.
Yes.
I love it. It seems like y'all make such a great team, and I am excited to see what else comes out of Save Yourself. Y'all, this was so lovely. Bones, Kelly, Nichole, thank you all so much for your time today. It has been lovely. And see what I did? I know I'm terrible. It's been so lovely chatting with you. And for those of you watching at home, be sure to pick up Save Yourself #1 in stores now.